Acting Class Weekly with legendary character actor Sean Whalen. Lessons, tips, and insight into the craft and business of acting from a man who's been directed by the likes of Spielberg, Eastwood, Tim Burton, Ang Lee, Michael Bay, Wes Craven, Tom Hanks, and many more of Hollywood's A-list. He is 30 years an actor and your professor, Sean Whalen.
Roxy, I can't spend too much time talking about why I'm wearing what I'm wearing today because we were a little admonished by Mr. Fantabulous, Jeff Graham, to not spend too much time being goofy at the front of the show.
Oh, did he say so?
He just, it was too long. He was like...
Some might call that a killjoy.
No, his point was very well taken. Get to the meat of the show. Get to the meat of the show sooner. He loves the banter.
And you just want to tell the people.
Yeah, I just want to tell
so that they know who to blame.
Yes, yes.
It's my fault.
It's but he's doing his job. He's doing his job. And in the booth, as always, is Mr. Fantabulous, the responsible one in this group. And
I just love the meat so much. The bread, if you have a bad bread to meat ratio.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
That's why I typically go Adam and Eve style.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, I don't even like any of the bread. Just give me the meat.
And speaking of Miss Meaty, is Miss Phenomenal, Roxy Striar.
That is what the people call me, Miss Meaty. Yeah, but really it should be Mrs. Meaty.
Miss Meaty, who didn't even have the weight to like raise or squash her chair.
Yeah.
I don't think that's Miss Meaty. I wouldn't say so. But I'm wearing this sweater because we're talking about Mr. Michael Caine. I've read 2 of his books back to back, and this is the kind of sweater he wore in my favorite Michael Caine role of all time, which is him in Hannah and Her Sisters, which he won an Oscar for.
Is that the type of sweater? I don't remember.
Yes, he's very professorial.
Jeff, will you show me the ways?
Come on, Michael Caine. There's
pretty accurate.
Yeah,
I gotta say, Sean, I'm pulling up a photo now.
You're gonna see.
For our podcast listeners, it's a nice gray cardigan layered over a professorially plaid button-up.
See, that looks more to me like a what?
It's a thick vibe sweater, like this.
Yeah,
this is tan.
It looks more to me like a wool sweater.
But
yeah,
I mean,
it's definitely a cardigan though.
But it's in the vein. I'm definitely in the vein.
I see what you're doing, but he has a tie on.
He doesn't have a tie on.
No. But I just said this. Why I'm wearing the sweater.
So why are you wearing the t-shirt?
That's because I'm still me. I'm not Michael Caine in Hannah and Her Sisters. I'm still me. I'm doing a little homage. I'm not doing a remake. I'm doing an homage.
Homage.
You see what I'm saying?
I still don't know when to say homage, when to say homage.
The bread's getting thick.
It's
the
thick
bread's
bread.
getting thick. We got to get to the meat. All right, so we are going to be talking. Michael Caine has a philosophy that he says, use the difficulty. He talks about it in both his books a lot. We're going to talk about what that means, and we're going to talk about how I had an independent movie that was quite difficult to shoot, and I used that difficulty to branch out, and it led me to Mr. Rob Zombie. That's what's going to happen today. And we're going to talk about how I used the difficulty in many times in my long career to turn things around and put them in a new direction. So that's what's happening. And before we do that, we're going to do Sean's Week. And because I was out with the flu, let's do maybe a sickly but recovering Sean's Week. Sickly, but on the mend, Sean's Week. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sean's Week.
Wait, can I tell you what?
Incredible interpretations.
But that brought a whole new meaning to the verbiage, too, because didn't that for the first time think like Sean's weak?
Like a pun.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you're not weak.
A
you're
double
getting
entendre.
Stronger.
Yes, there'd be a lot of bread. That could go very bready.
That's more like a whole bun.
That's a roll.
That's a roll.
It's a Kaiser roll.
Dinner roll.
It's a Kaiser roll. Dang. Or even some challah.
I'm sure we're doing Jeff very proud right now.
I know, we're not. Yeah, see, I got to keep an eye on that. All right, so my week, I had the flu. That's why if you guys were listening last week, I was out with the flu, got it pretty bad, but got on Tamiflu. 4 or 5 days, had a little Valentine's with my girlfriend, and I made her a heart out of all our pills and medicine and
Are you
Gatorade.
serious?
Yeah,
That's
I have a picture
really
of it.
Cute.
Yeah.
What do you do when you have auditions and you're ill?
I couldn't go. There was one on last Monday.
And what do you tell them?
You just have to say you can't. And my
you don't
agent said,
or anything?
My agent said, "Oh, I couldn't get out of bed. If I could have, yes, but my agent said, everybody's sick right now. Don't even worry about it." So that was a bummer. But even though I was down and out, I worked with Daria Berenato, Sonia Deville, and I did it from my bed on FaceTime while she was in Florida, and I helped her get a self-tape done.
Good.
So that was really cool. I did have an audition yesterday when I was on The Mend. Same kind of thing, though. I keep seeing all these great actors. Is either one of you a fan of 30 Rock?
I am.
You know, the guy who played her writer friend, Chris? He was the bald guy.
Jeff is like the biggest fan ever. But yes, I know. I believe I know who you're talking about.
Yes, he came in and I said, "Oh my God, you know, I'm such a fan of your work." And he said, "I'm such a fan of your work too."
Oh, that's so great.
It's so great. So that was really fun. And I did coaching yesterday. I coached my girl, Sarah Carrion, who's very good, 12 years old, plays hockey, and is recording an album. So she's a little busy for 12. And she just nailed it. She was so fun. It was like a mean girl part, and she's just so not like that, a little hockey player,
That's
musician.
fun to play, though.
But that's exactly what I said. I said, we never get to be this mean in life. So now you get to be as mean as you want. And that's so fun. So that was really cool. And then today I did some looping for The Walking Dead. Again today, the new Walking Dead will be on in spring, so World Beyond. So that was fun, but crazy, you know, politics of looping, which is a whole crazy thing. We'll talk later. But
maybe we should do a whole episode on looping.
Yeah, it's a weird one we'd have to discuss because it's something that's like the minority of people can get into, and it's not something to pursue. Anyway, so that is what happened this week. I am excited for an upcoming week. I am shooting in Jason Trost's movie this weekend, but I can't.
You can't say.
You know what? I just kind of. If he found out I said that, he'd be mad.
Why?
Because I'm always kind of a surprise character.
Well, they don't know what movie.
Yes, you don't know what movie, but anyone who knows
You're
him,
shooting in his.
Anyone who knows him and knows what he's shooting.
Guys, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell
this
anybody.
Is just
That's
a
all we're
secret
trying
for
to tell
us.
you. Please don't tell him. And he always never wants me to tell because I'm a fun surprise for the fans. So.
Well, speaking of the fans, Sean,
yes.
I will say that I don't think they're going to tell anybody because they are part of our family here.
Yes.
And we really appreciate them being part of our Acting Class Weekly family with Sean Whalen.
Yes.
So let's talk about the people who have left comments between last show and today's show.
Okay.
We've gotten a ton of them, actually.
Wow.
So I will just pick one to read, but we will do one every week for the next, who knows how long we keep this going, Sean, for the next 50 years.
50 years.
So I want to read this one from the Tenant 194825, who titles it Free Education and then gives us 5 stars.
Wow.
They say, this is something that all actors should listen to. Every week, I learn something new. Sean has such great advice and clearly has a lot of experience as a Hollywood actor. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom.
Wow.
It's really sweet. Thank you so much for that. And again, I'll read some more next week.
Yeah.
But if you want your comment to be read live on the show, then go to Apple Podcasts, leave a comment, go to YouTube, leave a comment wherever you are, 5 stars, thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. And it just helps this entire community grow. So we love giving you guys shout outs. We love hearing what your guys' thoughts are, what you want episodes to be based on, who you want as guests, and all that great stuff. But thank you this time to the Tenant 194825.
Wow, that's
You
amazing.
feel good,
and
Sean?
I just have 2 new students, one in England that I did meet at a convention several years ago, and now she's ready to work, and then one in Australia, and that is from this show.
Dang.
So I'm going to be doing a couple new Skype coachings, so that's pretty exciting. So I just have to get back to them. This show is about using the difficulty, and how funny that we're using the difficulty because we are not the dance influence with Dana.
I know.
Alexa.
I tried to let him know, but I don't know why. He told us beforehand. I thought it was a joke, but I guess
it was a joke too.
Maybe he was letting us know this is our new show.
We have to use the difficulty by putting a little sauce on the meat and having some fun with it.
Ooh, it just turned into a barbecue sandwich?
You could go.
Tangy barbecue?
I love barbecue.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
This is a nice
dry
pulled
rub?
pork barbecue.
Dry rub or saucy?
So for the people on podcast listening to us and not watching right now.
Yeah, we have a big sign behind us that says the dance influence with Dana Alexa, but
which
that's
means
not us.
we're just trying to cross-promote a little bit,
There
guys.
we go.
We're just trying to give a
There
little
we
love
go.
and cross-promotion to some of our other
See?
AfterBuzz TV shows.
And we use the difficulty to solve the problem and had fun at the same time.
That's true.
So what is use the difficulty? Roxy was a little confused by the phrase outside, and so I wanted to say what I watched Michael Caine on an interview, and what he said was he was doing a scene, and he was to make...
Michael Caine was doing a scene?
Michael Caine was doing a scene when he was a young actor in theater. He was walking into the scene. There was a couple in there waiting for his entrance, and the guy, before he was making his entrance, had a fight with his wife, and they went a little rowdier than usual, and he threw a chair, and it blocked the door. And so it was luckily during a rehearsal. It wasn't during a performance. And Michael Caine tried to walk in, and he, was getting a little stuck, and it was in the way. And he looked to his director, and he said, "Hey, I can't get in. The door's there." And he said, "That's ridiculous. Use the difficulty." And he said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "If this is a comedy, trip over that chair. And if it's a drama, smash it on the ground as you walk in and scream." He goes, but just use the difficulty. Use what you have. And he's basically, and then, I prefaced this whole thing because at the very end of the interview, it's very funny. He said, well, I have a second rule of life, too, which is avoid difficulty at all costs.
That's funny. I do like that.
Yeah, so he just said use the difficulty, and he kind of goes through it. He has one book where it's two books that are very autobiographical. And then one book, he kind of just says his advice, and he does take the same kind of stories and just formats it differently. But he has a whole chapter on this, using the difficulty. So I thought, you know what? We were talking about me coming in and doing some more about the biographies and stuff. I think I will do a show of just pieces of the bunch of them that I've been reading. I'm doing Billy Crystal's now.
How is it?
Love it. I mean, he's just such...
Who voices it? Are you listening to it on tape?
He reads it. Yeah, it's him. And he reads some of the chapters actually live. So they're fun and funny and have reactions and stuff like that. I mean, he's so old school comedy, so it's really fun. But back to Michael Caine, I thought, you know what? I'd like to go through my career and see all the difficulties that I took and turned around. And I think Roxy put it in a different form that made sense too. It is the old phrase, taking lemons and turning them into lemonade.
Yeah, but
right?
this is specifically for performance purposes.
For performance purposes, acting, and how I took in my career to make things better when I was thrown challenges or obstacles or a chair in my way.
I think this is interesting in general, Sean, because there's two different ways you can really look at it. But have you ever been told, without the difficulty part, have you ever just been told, use it?
Yeah, use it.
That's something that gets thrown around all the time by directors, especially.
Yeah.
Use it. Whatever you're coming in there with that day, whatever is happening in your life, whatever energy, use it. Use it.
Yeah, use whatever you have going on.
I think this could both be whatever difficult things are thrown at you during a scene or during it, or whatever difficult things are happening in your life that you also just using it in your work.
Right.
So I really like this.
And it also gives you the permission to make mistakes. When you learn to ride a bike, and there's no teacher in the world who's teaching you how to ride a bike that would say, but you will never stumble, you'll just start riding.
I still don't know how, Sean.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
That's the whole generation thing. It used to be a thing, and now it's just, it was a milestone.
Every person in my generation knows how to ride a bike, Sean.
Really?
Yeah. Jeff?
I am gotta say I am shocked you don't know how to ride a bike, especially because I'm not just saying this to gas you. Roxy is one of the most capable people I know.
It's true.
There's not a thing I know that you can't do, and I'm gonna laugh a little bit that you don't know how to ride a bike.
I really don't know.
There's a lot of kids.
My mother didn't know how to ride a bike.
My daughter's generation that doesn't.
Yeah,
that
that's
true?
often. Yeah, my mom didn't know how to ride a bike. I don't know how to ride a bike. Like nobody in my family.
They just didn't
we're
take you
a family
out.
of not bike riders.
I
They
just
didn't
feel
take you out.
from what I know of Roxy, your family's like so traditional and like family-y.
Yeah, we did a lot of other stuff. We went camping a lot.
Right.
But no, we didn't ride the bikes.
No biking.
And how did you use that difficulty?
By walking a lot.
By walking a lot.
Yeah, which was better because it took longer to go places. I got to stop and smell the roses.
There you go.
Notice things along the way that I would have been going by too fast otherwise. Ha-ha!
Use that difficulty. Throw that chair. All right, so I was a kid who did not like doing chores. Because all kids do.
Yeah, that makes you very unique.
It makes me very special. But I was the youngest of 4.
Did you write your college essay about that?
Yeah. I was the youngest of 4, and we'd always have to do the dishes. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to do these chores right now. And I thought, what can I do to get out of it? I've told this kind of before, but I started to entertain my brothers and sisters. It's really where I started crafting, my audience. My first audience was my family. So, and I just heard that in Billy Crystal's book. He's the same thing, all these shows for families and things like that. But that's where I crafted that. So I took that difficulty and I was like, I'm going to spin this on its ear and I'm going to entertain them. I'm going to get out of it till finally they busted me and said, we left these dishes for you. And that's when I realized, oh, they're on to me. They get it. They're going to let me entertain them, but they're going to leave me a nice chunk of the work. So I thought, okay, I need to find a new audience. So I went out and in kindergarten, I performed in my kindergarten circus. I was the strong man and I had to pantomime lifting weights. And in 5th grade, I directed a version of Rumpelstiltskin that I directed and starred in. And I think I told you this story. With my lady friend, Sophie DeMerck. Shout out to her. Sophie. And so I used this kind of dislike of menial work and kind of turned it into, how do I get out of it? How do I do something more interesting and fun and creative? So it'll be funny. I feel like this is when the Alanis Morissette's song Ironic came out. There was a whole breakdown of, the English professors who goes, well, this isn't really ironic. This is, just a weird coincidence or something that happened or something. So we might run into those. Maybe they aren't going to be perfectly use your difficulties, but they felt like it to me.
I'm going through it right now in my head. Rain on your wedding day, free ride, you already paid, good advice, just can't take.
Is that really ironic?
Is it? Yeah. I just got to really check those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, as kids got older, I played sports in my neighborhood. We had fun. I played football. It was seasonal. We played baseball in the spring, football in the fall. We played basketball, which that was my worst. I hated it. I was so small. But we would play all the sports, but I would play there, but when people started to grow out of the neighborhood and go into their real sports and the clubs and the teams and stuff, I didn't do that. And so I was small and, some of the small kids got bullied, but I thought, okay, I don't want to get bullied and I don't want to be lost because I don't play sports like everyone else. So it really forced me, or not forced me, but it went into my wheelhouse, guided me to really cultivate this fun kind of outgoing personality. And it made me also go and cultivate my sense of humor, and entertain.
Sean, were you cognizant enough of I do not want to get bullied, therefore I have to be funny, and if I'm funny, I will not get bullied, or it's kind of just how it happens?
Hindsight is 20/20.
Right.
Absolutely, because I don't think I thought that consciously, but I did know there was one time where this guy wanted to, beat me up. He, I don't know what it was. I think it was Bernie McClenny. Bernie McClenny wanted to beat me up.
You were not feeling the burn.
I was not feeling the burn, and he was chasing me around, and he, I was fast and short, and I could dodge and weave, and they, people were like, oh, at lunch, Bernie's going to beat up Sean, and he'd always try to chase me, and he wouldn't get me, and this was for 3 days, and then the 4th day, he's chasing me, he got me, he grabbed me, and he started spinning me around and threw me. And I remember spinning on the ground and then popping up like this, literally like this, and going, ooh, I love to lounge on the grass. And the crowd loved it.
So for the iTunes people, for the podcast people.
I did a little.
Like a pose?
A little pose with my leg up, all relaxing, very
like
sassy.
A goofy thing.
Like a goofy thing. And I went, I love to lounge on the grass. And the crowd loved it. The kids loved it. They laughed, and everyone just kind of dissed Bernie, and I was fine. So, I mean, it was obvious like that for sure. I used it to make myself, make people forget and make them turn their allegiance to me because I was funny and entertaining and took something negative and made it fun. So I think I did that a lot, but as always, we always forget. So fast forward to freshman year in high school, they were doing the show Godspell, and that's only like 8 to 10 people. It's a very small cast, and it was our fall musical. So usually the fall musical has a lot of people, so a lot of people were trying out. Well, it was pretty obvious that they were going to go for a younger type, and I was a freshman. I was very small, and they had juniors and seniors, and it was me and Jeff Fetterman and Brad Fetterman. These guys...
The twins?
Nope, they're brothers, a year apart. But Brad and Jeff were... No, Harvey Fetterman.
Which one was not Brad or Jeff?
It's Harvey or Jeff.
Harvey and Jeff.
Harvey and Jeff were the musical ones. Brad is their younger brother, who I'm working with doing corporate improv.
No
in Memphis.
way.
Yeah. But those two guys were very Broadway trained. They had taken voice lessons their whole lives. They were just had done musical theater, and I had not. I could sing. I could sing fine. I was in all choruses and choral. See, my daughter's got mad at me that I call it chorus because it's choir now. You don't say chorus.
Really?
Yeah, you say choir.
But aren't those two different things? Isn't choir a religious thing and chorus is not?
No, I mean, you just say, show choir, chorus. But I said chorus, and they thought it was lame.
We had chorus. It was called All City Chorus.
Yeah, there you go. So I remember the audition, and they wanted it's supposed to be very fun. I mean, my gosh, the Toronto Godspell was the one that had everyone from Saturday Night Live and Gilda Radner and Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. Like it was comedic and fun. It's a fun show, and we had to go out and say, "Ta-da!" and do something fun or just make it interesting.
That was the audition.
That was like the crucial part. We had all gotten to that one part, and this was gonna separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say. And so Harvey,
I've literally never heard that expression.
You've never.
What is a chaff?
It's when it's a farming term. I don't know what it is either.
Chaff?
Mr. Fantabulous, the wheat from the chaff.
Oh, the wheat.
Oh, I thought you said the week.
No,
Me
the
too.
wheat.
I thought you said
from
the week
chaff.
from the chaff.
No, the wheat from the chaff.
It makes more sense now.
Yeah.
I still have never heard of it.
I still don't know what chaff is, but I know it's part of making bread.
But now at least I get why it's a farming thing.
And isn't it ironic this part to be used making bread? And isn't it ironic that I used the song, Isn't It Ironic?
Yes.
Don't you think?
There's
Yeah.
so much meat. I mean, there's so much bread. We got a lot of bread.
Throw some
Meat on there.
Yeah.
Here comes the meat. So you have to say ta-da, right? And so they went out and they sang beautifully or did something. I forget what they did, but I thought, what am I going to do? Because I have to differentiate myself. So I went out and I did remember the kick the habit kick where you would jump up and click your two heels together? And
Yeah, it's called, I don't know what.
Is it a dance move?
Yeah, it's not called the habit.
They used to say kick the habit for people who were quitting smoking in the 70s.
Oh no, it was called like a leprechaun-y.
Yeah, it's
something
very
like that.
leprechaun-y looking. You
Something.
jump out. And I went out and I ran my hardest. I jumped out. I did the little leprechaun kick, clicked my heels together, went ta-da, and then didn't land and just fell on my side and just went boom. And I had the hugest bruise on my hip, but
my God.
they were laughing so hard because it looked so crazy, and I got the role. Like, it was one of the only freshmen ever to get a role that substantial. And I definitely used the difficulty because I was up against well-trained people.
And if you weren't,
I
you might not have
wasn't-
thought outside the box like that.
Right. And so if I didn't push myself, so that came to bite me in the hiney because I was very excited.
And the bruised tiny,
In
nonetheless.
the bruised hiney a couple months later because we had a huge show called Rock and Roll Revival. And everybody wanted to be in it. And the thing was, you were either a singer, a background singer, or a dancer. And everybody wanted to have a song. And so we would just cover old 50s songs. So because I had no difficulty in my eyes, My teacher, Mr. Evans and Miss Ryer, I hope they listen because they were hugely influential in my life. I went in for the Rock and Roll Revival audition, didn't really work on it, didn't really prepare that much, and I went in and sang Day by Day from Godspell. Just kind of like, well, of course, you guys know I'm great, because I got the part in Godspell. So what? But that one I realized I fought for. So when the leads came out, I thought, for sure I got it. And I didn't. I did not get a lead. I was a background singer, and I got to still do dancing. But my teacher, Mr. Evans, said, you didn't try. You didn't try. And they had a song for me. They literally had one set aside. One-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater.
Who took it?
John, what's his last name? No, yeah, John Krasinski. No, John Krasinski. No, John, what's his name?
John went to high school.
John I went to high school with. I see his face so clearly. But he got it.
Edward.
But he got it because I didn't have a difficulty. I didn't have a challenge, and so I didn't raise to the challenge. And I got cocky. So I used that difficulty and never took an audition for granted again. Never throughout my career in high school. I worked hard for every audition ever since because, so I used that difficulty for the rest of my career. But man, that was a tough blow. So I had a great career in high school, but then I got into UCLA. I did get into the theater program. I found out recently there was only like 15 kids around the country that got in. I didn't even know that. And because I got in late, I didn't get a dorm room. But I was coming from Maryland to go to California. And of course, you're going to want to be surrounded by kids and friends. And I made some friends on my orientation. And I was just so jealous because they were all going to come back a week later and then move into their dorm. And so I was in an apartment with a junior and a senior. One was becoming a policeman, and another guy, Dan, was from England, and they were older. And I was
so dumb.
And I was, and then I had to sleep on the couch bed because it was just a one bedroom, and they shared the bedroom, and I had a couch bed. I mean, it was depressing. It was really depressing. And then I was like, I'm going to get a bike because I looked at the map and I thought, oh, this will be easy. Well, I didn't know that Westwood had all those hills, huge, huge hills. So I remember I'd put on like a little red windbreaker and just walk for 50 minutes to get to the North Campus.
Yeah.
But because I was kind of sad like that, I was homesick, I wasn't really doing that great when I tried out for the play, I used it. And I got a play freshman year with Daphne Zuniga, as I said. But it was kind of a deeper, kind of depressing, dark play. And I used it and slid right in. So
in your character.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I was so happy in the dorms and having a blast, I might not have even tried out because I might have thought, well, I don't want to miss time with all my friends and the parties and things like that. So, again, I used that difficulty as well to turn that around. So now this is one that'll be interesting because we'll have to decide if it's using the difficulty. But when I found out that I got in the play, I did really well. Well, there was a lot of kind of vibe that people were pissed that a freshman got a part so
You're talking
young.
about the college one.
The theater arts department. I got a lot of kind of bad vibes from a lot of people. And I loved
the students, not the teachers. Yeah.
No, not the teachers. Thank you. The students, for sure. And I was doing great in my acting class, of course, because I could cry. I was so lonely. And but I just didn't like the idea of sitting up in that little building and building sets when I knew that wasn't what I was going to do. I wasn't trying to go into theater. I was trying to go into, movie acting and stuff. So I actually stepped, and I was getting a lot of attention from that play, and it was a lot. There was a movie called The Mask with Cher in it, and I tried out for that part. I mean, I got a lot of attention. It was just kind of too much, too fast. Not the Cher part, no. But
damn you, Cher, for getting that over, Sean.
For getting me. And so I stepped away from the program and took a normal course in sociology and business. But I think I used that time to really get comfortable. I found friends. I finally did move into the dorm. We started a fraternity. My dorm friends were all leaving, and I said, how do we stay together? We found a small fraternity that was like 4 or 5 guys that were struggling. And I said, we'll all join. Let's all join. And we took it over. A friend of mine that was studying real estate got us a house. So by junior year, we were getting a house together. And so I used that time, I guess the difficulty of stepping away from acting for a little while to really work on the hustle part. You know, I had a lot to do with getting that fraternity started. I had a lot to do with organizing those guys and getting them together because I thought this is the funnest group of guys I've ever had.
And do you feel like that helped your career at all, or it just helped your life?
Absolutely. I think it helped my career. Both. I would say both because I learned that you can make stuff happen. I mean, the fact that, you know, I walk by that table and go, we should join that fraternity so we can take it over. And, you know, 2 years later, we're moving into a fraternity house. It was crazy. I mean, we were like, yay, this is all great. And then the, you know, alumni are going, okay, so now you actually have to get people in the house and make sure you have enough money for the rent. And we're like, what? So, and then we're like, we're not going to discriminate and rush people and be rude. And then you start letting in everyone. And then you realize that if anyone can come in, then the sororities don't want to do things with you because you're just you know, and then you go, oh, shoot, we actually do have to discriminate and say you're a fit and you're not a fit. You know, it was a hard life lesson, you know? So I think that stepping away was the best thing because I cultivated other parts that are important for this long-term business: hustle, friends, connections, how to organize. I was vice president of the fraternity.
Is it still going on?
It closed like 5 years after we left. Yeah. But man, there's...
they didn't have the hustle you did.
But Matt Nix, who created the show Burn Notice and everything, he's an alumni like a couple years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was like, Sean Whalen, you were a legend, you know, because
That's
everybody
amazing.
knows. Yeah, it was really funny.
A frat legend.
Frat legend. Yeah, that's me. So you look at me and don't you just think
Fratty AF.
Frat legend. Mm-hmm. Yes. So so then that's when I felt better. I felt better who I was, felt better that I had friends. I felt more in my skin. So that's when I tried out for Groundlings. And they told me...
So now we're after college?
Now we're after college, graduated 86. I came back and I loved it. I loved the program. I auditioned, I got in, and then they told me how much it was, and I couldn't do it. I didn't have enough money. So I used that difficulty, and I busted my butt for 3 months, taking double shifts so I could become a waiter at the restaurant I was working at. You had to move your way up from the takeout area into being a waiter. And I mean, I just worked.
The Chin Chin days?
Worked. Yep. Chin Chin Brentwood. Yep. I worked my butt off. And yeah, with Pete Lewis, who is Juliette Lewis's brother. And oh my God.
Wow.
We had the funnest time. It was a blast. I met my ex-wife there. I mean, my best friend from college, Johnny Thompson, who's now a doctor down in San Diego. Like it was one of the greatest, funnest times. But I used that difficulty to, again, learn hustle, right? And to turn things around. And I made money and I became a waiter, so I was skilled at that and kept that going, and that kept me financed while I studied at the Groundlings for the next couple years. Did really well,
and
really
quickly. And do you think you appreciated Groundlings more because you had to work
Absolutely.
for it?
Absolutely.
You took it more seriously.
And I worked hard on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked hard because all I did was wait tables and do Groundlings. And I moved through quickly. I was in the Sunday show within 2 years. They're having a Sunday show reunion shows. Sunday show cast members, anyone who was in the Sunday show can now go do. Yeah, I think I'm going to go do an improv show with them. Yeah, so that'll
Let
be
me know
really
when,
fun.
Jeff, and I will come.
I will.
I just volunteered you, Jeff.
No, I'm so in. I mean, Sean, like Melissa McCarthy's Sunday show, right? Like.
Yeah.
Do you know how many like big A-list alumni are going to be there?
Lisa Kudrow.
Hopefully Lisa. But she was in the main company.
Yeah, but she's also still Sunday show.
Yeah, she was. But I don't think she'd do the Sunday show one. I don't think so. I'm not sure.
We'll tweet her.
We'll tweet her. All right.
I'll tweet her.
Okay, so then I was doing really well at the Groundlings, in the Sunday show. Everything was great. Thought I was going to get in. Mindy Sterling was my teacher, and they did the vote, and I was like, of course I'm going to get in the main company, and I didn't get in. And there was some weird politics. They had a guy, brilliant guy.
Could you not at the time keep trying? That was
Well, yes. Then they told you could extend for 6 months and then try again. So I took 2 months off because I was really bummed, and then I came back and had a couple great sketches. And then I was at this apex of, getting to be voted on again. And for some reason, during that time, a woman came to see me and said, you need to start auditioning. You're so funny. And I remember going on my first audition, and I was awful. This casting director literally goes, you have no idea what you're doing. You just don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to,
audition,
act, or, take material and make it work. I was looking at the paper. I didn't know how to look up. So I used that difficulty. I decided to learn how to act and go to Playhouse West. I pulled my name from the vote. So I don't know if I ever would have gotten in.
Didn't somebody tell you afterwards that?
I mean, you never
who
know.
knows?
Oh man, they still to this day never speak about it.
Really?
No, they don't. But and there was people I knew that really wanted to go in, and I thought I needed to learn how to act, or I'll never figure this out. Even if I do the Sunday show, I think the main company. I think it would be hard for me to then try to learn how to act at the same time. I don't know why. Of course, I probably could have, but I thought kind of singularly at that time. So I left, pulled my name from the vote, went to Playhouse West, and got a coach. And I got my coach who taught me how to audition, how to act. And because of that, I was always doing commercials. I did very well on commercials. I had a great look, like I told you, the spiked hair, thin guy. But then I got better, and my first small role, was with Cloris Leachman in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the movie. The TV show, and
AKA not the movie.
AKA not the movie. Again, ironic, because a few years later, I'm in a truck with Alan Ruck, who is in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the movie. I go, and then I'm learning drama. And that's when I get People Under the Stairs. And that's what got me out of waiting tables. So I used that difficulty of probably not getting in the Groundlings that easily, and it kind of changed my trajectory. And I've told everybody this. I love comedy. It's my favorite thing to act. But I've probably done 65% drama. But if I didn't know how to do drama, who knows what I would have had as a career. So it's great, It was really, really great. It was very tough. I wanted to get in the main company so bad, and I did just as well as my friends who are in the main company too. I was the first one to be in movies. They were doing TV shows and guest stars and pilots, but I was the one that was actually in movies. So, great revenge.
Suck on that.
Yeah, suck on that. So, and I had a great run for a while, and then, we can talk about some of these stories later, but later the 90s were a great time for me, and I got the milk commercial, and I said Spielberg watched it, and I did Twister and all these other movies, but then, I had to sell blenders for a while when I had kids. And then that got me, again, proactive. And then when you finish 6-7 years of that, you go, I never want to do that again. Made me hustle to become a teacher. And so you can always use your difficulty. And my story from the set was we did a very difficult movie, Laid to Rest, in Maryland. But I met young Jason Trost, his sister Sarah Trost, and their brother Brandon Trost. And they were doing a movie called The FP, and they asked me to be in it. And then Brandon went off to be a DP, showed it to the director he was working with, Rob Zombie, for Halloween 2. And Rob said, oh, I like that guy. That guy's funny. 2 weeks later, gave me a call. I was on the set doing Halloween 2 with Rob Zombie.
Straight offer.
Became friendly. We kept in touch over the years, and then he just put me in 3 from Hell last year, his sequel to Devil's Rejects. Again, straight offer, where I wrote my whole scene with him, and so
that's unbelievable.
So using that difficulty of that, set, I didn't sit in my room and complain. I went out and hung out with Jason Trost and met everybody, and it grew into, yeah, there it is, Sean Whalen, 3 from Hell. And then it grew into, a whole new path for me. So you can always use your difficulty. There's more stuff here for later, but for another time. But so using the difficulty, you've done that a lot.
Many, many times, and I guess in our part 2 version of this at some point, I will let the people know. But I love
plenty of that.
I love this. I do. I have "Better Not Bitter" tattooed on my shoulder, and I feel like it's all kind of iterations of the same thing.
It really is. You take what's given and say, and basically that's what Michael Caine said. He goes, "How can I make this work? How can I make this work for me? What will I learn?
Like, is it ideal? Not necessarily.
Oh, there's people that you see some extreme cases where people are quadriplegics or whatever, and they go, I became a better person. I never would have been that deep or meaningful or rich or anything.
Something that our founder, Keven Undergaro, always talks about is how a lot of times people think what the worst thing in their life is often the best thing in their life. And it's because it's that thing that either motivates you to do the thing or ultimately is the thing that makes you the expert in the field that you want to be, whatever it is. So
it was absolutely, for me, worst time in my life was 2015, and it turned my life around, and I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Right.
So you can always do that. You use it in your acting, and then if you think there's a roadblock, just figure out how to use it. So where can we find you?
Everywhere at Roxy Striar.
Mr. Funtabulous, are you unified yet?
Guys, I blew it so hard.
Oh my God.
I know,
it's been a month.
It's been a month.
We're going to give you some serious difficulty, so maybe you'll use it and change your name.
That's a good point.
Well, we'll shame you. We'll shame you every week.
You know what I will plug, though? For reality TV fans, this Bachelor season, AfterBuzz does amazing coverage for that show if you're curious. So check that out. This channel and our reality channel as well.
And you can find me, Mentor Roxy, everywhere at Sean Whalen Actor.
I love it.
As always, thank you for letting us be part of your journey.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.